In a quiet suburb, 17-year-old Emily was excited for her first babysitting gig at the old Wilson house, which had a reputation for being eerie. The parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, seemed unusually nervous as they instructed Emily to put their son Alex to bed by 8 p.m. and never to go into the basement, no matter what. They left hastily, leaving Emily slightly unsettled. As the night grew darker, Emily heard strange noises, like whispers and footsteps coming from the second floor. She checked on Alex, who was sound asleep, and then searched the house but found nothing amiss. Trying to dismiss her fears, she settled down to watch TV. However, the whispers grew louder, and she felt an unsettling chill in the air. Suddenly, the TV switched off by itself and the room plunged into darkness. Emily's heart raced as she fumbled for her phone to use as a flashlight. That's when she heard Alex's voice calling her name. Not from his bedroom, but eerily from the direction of the basement door, which was now ajar. Fighting against her fear, Emily approached the door, her phone's dim light casting long shadows. As she reached out to close it, a cold hand grasped hers, pulling her towards the darkness below. The door slammed shut behind her, and she let out a scream. Upstairs, Alex slept peacefully, unaware of the terror unfolding below. The scene fades to black as Emily's muffled cries echo through the house, leaving the story to be continued. Inside the pitch-black basement, Emily struggled against the icy grip pulling her deeper into the darkness. She managed to break free, scrambling away, her breaths coming in panicked gasps. Her phone's light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, revealing glimpses of forgotten furniture and cobwebbed corners. As Emily tried to find her way back to the stairs, she stumbled upon old, dusty photo albums and newspapers dating back decades, all featuring the Wilson family, including a boy who looked remarkably like Alex, but the dates on the photos were from over 50 years ago. Confusion and fear welled up inside her as she pieced together that the child in these photos couldn't possibly be the same Alex she was babysitting. Hearing footsteps above, Emily called out, hoping it was the Wilsons returning home. However, the heavy, dragging steps did not sound like those of frantic parents, but something more sinister. She followed the sound, leading her to a sealed room in the far corner of the basement. The air grew colder as she approached, and the whispers became clearer, chanting in a language she couldn't understand. As Emily reached out to touch the door, it creaked open on its own, revealing a dimly lit room filled with strange symbols and old dolls arranged in a circle. In the center of the circle was an antique mirror, its surface swirling with a misty darkness. Emily's reflection was not her own, but that of an old, haggard woman with hollow eyes beckoning her closer. The sound of the basement door slamming shut echoed through the house, followed by Alex's laughter from above. Emily turned to leave the room, but the dolls began to levitate, their eyes glowing red, blocking her exit. The room grew colder, and the whispering turned into loud chants. Emily realized she was not alone. Something had been unleashed. Outside, the night grew stormier, and back in Alex's room, the window flew open, letting in the howling wind. The pages of a book on the shelf began to flutter wildly, stopping on a page with an illustration of the basement room Emily was trapped in. The story pauses here, with Emily trapped in the basement facing an unknown horror, and upstairs, something malevolent stirring in Alex's room, ready to unveil more secrets of the Wilson house. In the basement, the air thickened as the dolls encircled Emily, their eyes burning with a supernatural light. The mirror in the room's center began to pulsate, its dark surface rippling like liquid. Emily, despite her terror, felt an inexplicable pull towards the mirror. The whispering voices coalesced into a single clear voice calling her name, promising answers and begging for release. Upstairs, the atmosphere in Alex's room shifted dramatically. The toys started to move on their own, creating a chaotic symphony of mechanical noises. Alex, still asleep, began to murmur in his sleep, his words syncing with the chants from the basement. The book that had flown open showed a tale of a witch who had cursed the Wilson family generations ago, binding their fates to the house. Back in the basement, the antique mirror's surface suddenly cleared, showing a vision of the past. The witch, wronged by the ancestors of the Wilson family, cursing them and their descendants to be bound to the spirits trapped in the house. The mirror then revealed another scene, this time of a young woman resembling Emily, hinting at a connection between her and the house's tormented history. As Emily watched these visions, the dolls started to speak in unison, recounting the history of the house and the family's curse. They revealed that every few decades, the spirits must be appeased through a ritual involving a member of the Wilson family, or a substitute, to prevent them from wreaking havoc beyond the house's confines. Meanwhile, the storm outside intensified, with lightning illuminating the house, casting sinister shadows. Inside Alex's room, the wind swirled, forming a spectral figure near the window, its form flickering between a benevolent maternal presence and a malevolent witch-like entity. The scene cuts between Emily in the haunted basement, surrounded by the levitating, talking dolls and the pulsating mirror, and the spectral occurrences in Alex's room, hinting at a deeper, mystical connection between the events unfolding in the two locations. As the clock struck midnight, the house seemed to groan under the weight of its dark history, and the energy in the basement surged towards a climactic moment, drawing Emily closer to the mirror's surface. Simultaneously, in Alex's room, the spectral figure solidified, its eyes opening with a glow that matched the doll's eyes below. The narrative pauses here, with the night at its darkest, the storm at its peak, and the ancient curse nearing its moment of reckoning, leaving the door open for further sinister developments. As the clock continued its relentless march towards the witching hour, Emily, now entranced by the mirror's revelations, found herself reliving the witch's memories. She experienced the betrayal and anger that led to the curse, feeling the witch's wrath as if it were her own. The dolls, now acting as conduits for the spirits of the house, narrated the tale of the witch's desire for vengeance against the Wilson ancestors for their deceit and greed. In Alex's room, the spectral figure, now fully materialized, began to interact with the environment, touching the objects on the shelves, each contact revealing more of the house's dark history. The figure turned towards Alex, revealing a face that morphed between the witch and a kinder, maternal visage, suggesting a complex history with the Wilson family. Meanwhile, Emily, in the basement, was led by the dolls to perform a ritual that seemed to be aimed at either lifting the curse or strengthening it. As she followed their instructions, unknowingly drawing sigils and arranging the old dusty furniture in a specific pattern around the mirror, the energy in the room grew more intense, the air vibrating with power. Back in Alex's room, the child began to stir, his dreams influenced by the spiritual turmoil of the house. His murmurs grew louder, and he started to speak in the same ancient language as the whispers, his voice intertwining with Emily's chants from the basement. The book on the shelf flew open to a page depicting a ritual similar to what Emily was performing, hinting at a cyclical nature of these events. The storm outside reached a crescendo, lightning striking the house, causing the lights to flicker and the ground to shake. In the basement, the mirror's surface became a portal, showing glimpses of other realms, each more terrifying and mesmerizing than the last. Emily, now caught in the ritual's flow, couldn't stop, her actions seemingly guided by an unseen force. The spectral figure in Alex's room moved towards him, its hand reaching out, not in a threatening manner, but with a gesture that seemed protective, or perhaps possessive. The room filled with a blinding light, originating from the figure, casting long, twisted shadows that merged with the darkness of the house. The narrative halts here, with Emily deeply entwined in the ritual in the basement, the boundaries between past and present blurring, and Alex under the watchful eye of the spectral figure as the house itself appears to come alive, teetering on the edge of a revelation or a disaster, awaiting the next twist in its long and haunted history. In the charged atmosphere of the basement, Emily, now a conduit for the ritual's power, moved with purpose she didn't understand, her actions mirroring those of the witch centuries before. The dolls, acting as guardians of the ritual, chanted in an ancient tongue, their voices harmonizing with the storm's fury outside. The mirror, now a gateway, pulsed with an otherworldly energy, its frame cracking as if unable to contain the power within. Above, in Alex's room, the spectral figure hovered over the boy, its hand touching his forehead, initiating a transfer of visions and memories. Alex's body convulsed slightly, his expression one of fear and wonder as he was shown the history of his family's bond with the witch and the spirits of the house. The figure, revealing itself as an ancestor of the Wilson family, communicated with Alex telepathically, sharing the burden of centuries and the truth of the curse laid upon their lineage. As Emily's ritual in the basement reached its climax, the house seemed to breathe, walls pulsing and floors creaking, as if the building itself was alive and participating in the ceremony. The dolls, now levitating around Emily, directed the flow of energy towards the mirror, which shattered suddenly, releasing a blinding light and a shockwave that sent Emily tumbling. The scene ends with the house enveloped in the storm. A beacon of supernatural occurrences, its inhabitants caught in a web of historical and mystical forces, the line between the living and the dead blurred, setting the stage for further revelations and the unfolding of the house's dark legacy. As dawn broke, the storm outside the Wilson house finally subsided, and the tumultuous events of the night began to coalesce into a resolution. In the basement, Emily stood among the spirits, her eyes now open to the true nature of the house and its history. The spectral entities, once bound by the witch's curse, began to fade, their chains broken by the night's rituals. They whispered their thanks to Emily, their forms dissolving into light, signifying their release from the centuries-old torment. In Alex's room, the spectral figure of the ancestor, now calm and serene, imparted final wisdom to the boy. It revealed that the rituals performed by Emily, unwittingly guided by the spirits, had not only served to appease the entities, but also to break the cycle of the curse. The ancestor explained that the family's suffering and the house's haunting were tied to the unfulfilled desires and unavenged wrongs of the past now settled through the night's events.